Hey everyone, Nigel here. In case you missed our announcement last week, we're going to be taking a bit of a break from Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International for the holiday season. Don't worry, we'll be back with all new episodes starting in January, but until then, we've got a bunch of interesting compilations that we hope you'll enjoy. Today, we're going to be looking at some of the most ridiculous stories from past Crimes of the Week episodes featuring body cam and surveillance video. One thing to keep in mind is that these segments have not been edited since they first appeared in their respective lists, so references to specific charges as well as other small details may no longer apply. Alright, enough said, let's get into it.
Authorities in California say that a man barely made it into 2025 before finding himself behind bars after he was pulled over for suspected drunk driving and accidentally said the quiet part out loud while being questioned by police. It all started at around 12:40 a.m. on January 1st when officers with the Murrieta Police Department noticed a car driving erratically. They decided to pull over the driver and question him about whether he'd been drinking. Things didn't get very far before this priceless interaction.
Hi. Hi. My name is Officer Bridgewater, Murrieta Police Department. Today you're being stopped for a DUI investigation. Do you have your license on you?
I do.
Okay. Where are you coming from?
I was just dropping off my friend because I'm the DUI tonight, and I was dropping her off near the In-N-Out off of Temecula.
Okay.
And I'm heading my way back off of, Jefferson.
You're the DUI tonight?
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say the DD?
If that epic Freudian slip wasn't enough to confirm officers' suspicions, what happened next certainly was.
I had beer and some champagne a couple hours ago, but...
Though the driver claimed he'd only had a bit of beer and champagne a couple hours earlier, when asked to take part in some field sobriety tests, he nearly fell over multiple times.
1, 2, 3. You're good, just continue. 9. Keep your foot out in front of you, okay?
As you might imagine, the whole thing ended up in the man being arrested. So in fact, he was the DUI that night. The Murrieta Police Department posted the body cam footage to their Instagram page this week, where they also reminded the public to drink responsibly. So far, the suspect's name has not been released. A jilted Florida woman bent on revenge against her ex-husband instead ended up giving them both a different kind of night to remember last week after she was allegedly caught on camera using a commemorative token from their first date together to try and destroy his property. According to reports, it all started shortly before 11 p.m. on January 24th when police were called by the male victim. The man stated his ex-wife, 34-year-old Sabrina Coyne, had shown up at his Bonita Springs home unannounced, had smashed one of his windows, and was banging on the door and demanding to be let in. When officers arrived, they found Coyne still standing at the door. Bodycam footage captured part of the resulting exchange between them, in which Coyne insisted that she lived at the home and that her ex-husband wouldn't let her inside.
What's going on? You the one banging on here?
Yeah, I'm trying to get in touch with my ex-husband.
Were you banging on the doors all along?
I banged on the door because he won't let me in.
You live here or no?
Stuff. Yes.
Or you used to?
I live here.
Of course, Coyne did not live in this house, but that was apparently one of the smaller lies she told that night. What caught police more off guard was when the 34-year-old repeatedly denied smashing a window at the property. This was despite the fact that not only was she caught on video surveillance doing this, she also recorded footage herself of the crime on her cell phone.
If you cannot afford a lawyer
For what? Wait.
or breaking the window with
I
a
didn't
brick,
break the window.
we'll speak
I
about
did
that
not
now.
break the window.
If you want to speak to me.
Making things even stranger, the item in question that Coyne allegedly hurled through the window was a brick that was a commemorative token of her and her ex-husband's first date. The brick reportedly had the date from 2020 printed on it, as well as the fact that they were jet skiing. Coyne's repeated denials about launching the brick were also captured on body cam footage, as was her arrest. She is now facing charges of criminal mischief and throwing a deadly missile into an occupied dwelling.
Authorities in Albuquerque, New Mexico say that 2 men are facing charges this week after they started a wild courtroom brawl targeting an accused murderer, a chaotic situation that was partially captured on surveillance video. The whole thing happened on the morning of January 31st during a hearing for murder defendant Alexander Ortiz. Ortiz is currently facing charges for the killing of his 20-year-old ex-girlfriend, Aliana Farfan. After Aliana broke off their abusive relationship, Ortiz allegedly shot and killed her inside of her apartment last year on January February 11th. Friends told police that they heard the fatal gunshot before busting down Eliana's bedroom door and discovering that she'd been shot in the face. Witnesses, meanwhile, said they saw Ortiz fleeing out a window at the crime scene. During the procedural hearing this week, things were going completely normal until suddenly Eliana's uncle, 40-year-old Carlos Lucero, jumped a barrier and ran into the courtroom's gallery. Footage shows him charging at Ortiz, who falls to the ground as he begins to be pummeled. Another man, identified as 51-year-old Pete Isasi, follows quickly behind Lucero. While his relation to the case is unclear, it appears from the footage that he joins the uncle in the beating. Things get even more chaotic when a third man, who is said to be Ortiz's father, joins the fray. The situation continues to escalate, with other family members running up and trying to pull the men back until corrections officers are finally able to break up the fight. While no one was seriously injured during the brawl, Ortiz reportedly suffered cuts to his face. Because corrections officers were also attacked, Lucero and Isasi were arrested and charged with assault and battery of a peace officer. It seems that Lucero doesn't mind though. He later explained to authorities that Ortiz, quote, "killed my niece like a coward," stating, "It was worth every moment." According to reports, the murder of Aliana Farfan isn't the only one Ortiz is accused of. He's also facing charges related to the killing of a 35-year-old woman named Nicole Maldonado, a crime that happened less than a week later at a local food market. Following this week's hectic situation, a spokesperson for the 2nd Judicial District Court where it all took place said that the incident highlights the importance of courtroom safety. They stated in part, quote, "This is just one more incident that we continue to deal with. These are the types of things that we see regularly. I really want to give recognition to the MDC officer who was caught in the middle of this. He did everything he could to ensure the safety of everyone." Representatives from Colorado's Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office say that one suspect has been arrested this week, but that they are currently searching for at least 3 others, following a bizarre and brazen robbery at a local pet store in which a thief faked a medical emergency so that accomplices could steal puppies. The whole thing unfolded on the afternoon of February 23rd at Perfect Pets in the Denver suburb of Centennial. According to reports, the incident began at around 1:30 p.m. when 3 male suspects entered the business. The men came in separately, all posing as legitimate customers. As they pretended to browse, one of them suddenly fell to the floor. The man, later identified as 37-year-old Timothy Davis Jr., began faking a seizure, drawing the attention of employees and other customers. Surveillance footage shows a small crowd of people gathered around Davis as one of the 2 other men begins walking towards the back of the store. The man can be seen reaching into one of the pens where the business's puppies are kept, snatching 2 tiny English bulldogs before heading for the exit. Though staff caught on to what was happening and tried to stop the thieves, even tackling the suspect with the puppies and causing him to momentarily drop them, 2 of the suspects managed to take the animals to a waiting gold Cadillac Escalade with a 4th suspect inside before speeding off. Unfortunately for Davis, he got left behind and was arrested as soon as police arrived at the scene. He is now facing multiple charges, including conspiracy to commit a felony, theft, and drug possession. Despite this, it seems Davis has refused to turn in his accomplices, as their identities still remain unknown at the time of this recording. Police have described the 2 other men who went into the store as a black male who was wearing a large black coat and sweatpants, and a white or Hispanic male who was wearing a blue and white beanie-style hat and had brown hair. No description of the 4th suspect has been released, but authorities say they believe they are looking for a female. As for the puppies, one of them has since been recovered thanks to the actions of a Good Samaritan. A woman who later purchased one of the bulldogs in Denver for $1,500 brought the animal back to the pet store after learning about what had happened on the news. Sadly though, the other puppies' whereabouts are still unknown. The crime has come as an especially hard blow to Perfect Pets, as employees there say this is the 3rd robbery they've had to put up with this month alone. In another incident a couple weeks ago, 2 women came in with their babies and used strollers to smuggle puppies out of the store. Neither of those 2 dogs has been recovered. A few days before that, someone tried to take off with a boxer puppy, but they were chased down and stopped. Sadly, as animals like these have surged in price over the past few years, they have increasingly become the targets of opportunistic thieves. The bulldogs in this week's incident, for example, were apparently being sold for just under $4,300 each. At the time of this recording, the situation is still under investigation, and anyone with information is asked to reach out to the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office. A pair of Brazilian travelers who were planning to go on vacation ended up with an unexpected layover in jail last week after they showed up to their flight late and were denied boarding and allegedly responded by attacking airport staff. The whole thing reportedly began shortly after 8:30 a.m. on March 2nd when the suspects, 40-year-old Rafael Sarafe Novaes and 29-year-old Beatriz Rapoport de Campos Maya, arrived at Florida's Miami International Airport. The engaged couple were expecting to board a flight to Cancun, Mexico, where they had booked a vacation. However, things did not go as planned. After showing up at the airport less than 25 minutes before their American Airlines flight was scheduled to take off, the pair were told that they were too late and that boarding had already finished. That's when the couple apparently flew into a violent rage. Footage shot by equally concerned and amused bystanders shows Novaes and Maya after they allegedly attempted to force their way onto the flight, pushing past airport staff and towards the jet bridge despite no trespassing signs and repeated verbal commands to stop. In the video, police and security can be seen struggling with both of them after they are accused of pushing at least two people and throwing coffee on them. After being restrained, Novaes and Maya were arrested and could be seen in later footage being perp-walked in handcuffs to a waiting police car on the airport's tarmac. Much to the relief of all of the other passengers on the flight, they were successfully able to travel to Cancun afterwards, though they arrived there about half an hour late. Upon being taken into custody, the pair were both charged with 2 counts of battery and trespassing on property after warning. Novaes was further charged with resisting arrest. Despite this, following their releases from jail, the couple remained defiant. During an interview with local media, they framed the situation as if they'd done nothing wrong, denying throwing the coffee and calling the airline employees liars. In Maya's telling of events, the coffee simply fell out of her hands. Even if this is true, if you ask me, the pair didn't exactly come off as sympathetic characters, especially when they started dropping lines like this.
I'm from Brazil. I'm from Brazil. I'm a doctor in Brazil. Like, what's supposed to happen? This is fair? Nobody threw coffee. Just the coffee fall. The coffee just fall. And the lady that said that I threw her coffee is a liar.
Following the incident, American Airlines put out a statement saying in part, quote, "Acts of violence are not tolerated by American Airlines, and we are committed to working closely with law enforcement in their investigation." Reports also point out that committing acts of intentional violence in an international airport is a federal crime, punishable by up to 20 years in prison and a $250,000 fine.
Authorities in Gwinnett County, Georgia say that 3 young women are in custody and are facing charges following a bizarre and violent broad daylight brawl last month, one that was apparently over a prom dress. The whole thing unfolded back on February 26th at a racetrack station just outside the city of Norcross. According to reports, an 18-year-old woman who has not been identified by name had traveled there that afternoon to sell a prom dress to her now former friend, 20-year-old Morgan Flincham. It seems that the prom dress in question had quite the convoluted history. It said that Flincham was the original owner, but that the dress was in the 18-year-old's possession at the time and that her mother had partially paid for it. Apparently, the woman had arranged to meet with the understanding that Flincham would be buying the rest of the dress outright. After they both arrived at the gas station, Flincham asked if she could try the dress on in a business bathroom, to which the 18-year-old agreed. However, this was allegedly a setup. As soon as they went inside, a friend of Flincham's was waiting there who snatched the dress and bolted. The 18-year-old ran outside, only to discover that another one of Flincham's friends was waiting there. The situation would have been a 3-on-1 if it weren't for the fact that the teen brought her boyfriend with her. The boyfriend was apparently able to wrestle the prom dress away from the 2 accomplices. However, that didn't stop the girls from attacking the 18-year-old victim. Footage captured by the gas station's surveillance system shows a number of scuffles between the women, including one particularly wild moment when one of the suspects begins choking the teen victim from behind. As you can see, the exchange ended with the 18-year-old flipping her attacker over and body slamming her on the pavement. When police were called and arrived at the scene, all 3 of the female suspects were arrested. In addition to Flincham, the 2 other women have been identified as Lilia DeJager and Kaylee Georgia. All 3 of them have now been charged with theft by taking, while Flincham and DeJager are each facing an additional charge of battery. Following the arrests, a corporal with Gwinnett County Police said of the strange situation, quote, "I would say it's not normally something we have to investigate, an argument over a prom dress." However, the department reminded the public that they have designated areas at all of their precincts for transactions like these to make them safer for both buyers and sellers.
Representatives from Florida's Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office released some equally strange and dramatic footage this week. Video which shows part of a military-style aerial operation that was reportedly launched in response to some teens in a stolen golf cart. The whole thing began just after 11 p.m. on March 19th, when Hillsborough County Police were alerted about the vehicle, which had been stolen from a local clubhouse in the city of Riverview. The group of teen suspects, who ranged in age from 14 to 16, had taken the vehicle out for a joyride and were driving around the city's Triple Creek community. Now, I don't know about you, but normally I'd assume this is the sort of thing you'd send a couple of officers out to deal with. You know, go out, get the golf cart back, and give these kids the business, so to speak. However, the sheriff's office responded quite a bit differently. They sent out a whole team, including an aerial unit. You kind of just have to see it for yourself.
Going up to Bent Twig Drive, you got 4 of them running southbound, 5 of them running southbound. One of them stopped, that's going to be the driver.
Alright, we got 3.
Yeah, running east on Hammock Park. He's at Fruitville, Hammock Park, on the ground. Deputy sent you 5. Hey, great job. Good job setting up the perimeter.
While this all seems a little over the top for a stolen golf cart, especially since there were no reported damages or injuries, I suppose there's no arguing that the tactic wasn't effective. As you saw, all 5 of the teens were quickly rounded up and arrested, and the golf cart was returned to the club where it had been stolen. In a statement, Sheriff Chad Chronister said, quote, "Theft, no matter the item, is a violation of our community's sense of safety. We will continue to protect the property of our residents and hold those responsible accountable for their actions." So far, no further information has been released about the suspects or the possible charges they will be facing. Representatives from Florida's Brevard County Sheriff's Office released what is perhaps some of the most classic Florida man footage we've seen in a while this week, after a local man was arrested while dressed in a Ronald McDonald costume. The clown takedown happened on the afternoon of March 24th when officers were called to a shopping center in the city of Palm Bay. Police were contacted after 40-year-old Christopher Marlowe reportedly caused a scene there and refused to leave the plaza. According to police, he had also previously been in trouble for trespassing there before. When officers arrived, they found Marlowe dressed in his Ronald McDonald costume. He had the iconic red and white striped shirt and yellow vest, though in place of the Golden Arches logo, there was apparently a skull instead. The 40-year-old did not take the news well when he was informed that he was being placed under arrest. He began resisting, and the whole thing quickly turned into a bit of a McDumpster fire.
Put your stuff down. Don't put your stuff down. Oh, step it up. Oh, knock it off. I'll just leave. On the ground. Jump! Get me now! Turn over now! Turn over now!
As you heard, before releasing the body camera footage this week, police took the time to cover Marlowe's profanity-laden ranting with comical honking noises. But that wasn't the only surreal part of this whole thing. In addition to finding a fake orange gun on Marlowe, a search of his bag revealed several additional clown costumes and a package of red noses. My personal favorite moment, though, was when one of the officers told the 40-year-old while putting him in the squad car, quote, "You look like a clown," only for Marlowe to reply, quote, "No shit, I am a clown, stupid." According to police, Marlowe has now been charged with trespassing and resisting an officer with violence. His previous rap sheet includes similar crimes, as well as a slew of drug-related offenses. Well, what can I say, folks? It's been a real Florida kind of week, and this last case is no exception. Authorities in the city of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, say that a 21-year-old man has been arrested and is facing charges this week after he allegedly drove his father's car into the ocean following an argument. The whole thing started shortly before 2 a.m. on March 26th when the Jacksonville Beach Police Department received a strange call from a man named John Cuss. The 60-year-old father said that his 21-year-old son Joshua had borrowed his gray Subaru the previous night, but had not returned it. He was pretty sure he knew where to find it, though. You see, Joshua had texted him a short time earlier. During that exchange, he had threatened, quote, "I'm going to drive the car into the Atlantic Ocean." By pinging the location of Joshua's cell phone, police were able to follow his movements from that night to a local beach. Sure enough, when they arrived, officers found the Subaru floating in the water just off the shoreline. Joshua was nowhere to be found, though using that same cell data, they were able to track him to his mother's place, who lived nearby. When confronted about what had happened, the 21-year-old apparently admitted to what he had done, calling it a, quote, "stupid move." He then explained to officers that he was mad because of an argument he'd had with his dad and his aunt earlier that night. A subsequent police report states that Joshua told the officers he initially tried to get the car to drive itself into the ocean using a cinder block, but he was unable to make the setup work. He then did it himself, but claimed he was careful to make sure no one was nearby or in the water before he accelerated. He added that while he was driving, he, quote, wished he could point his middle finger at his father and aunt, stating, quote, hopefully they will listen to me now. Unfortunately for Joshua, that seems unlikely, as his dad has already decided to press charges. Joshua was arrested on felony criminal mischief after it was determined he'd done at least $6,500 worth of damage to his father's car. Apparently, this is also not the first time Joshua has done something stupid behind the wheel. In January of 2022, he pleaded no contest to DUI and was handed a 12-month probation sentence. In that case, he was also driving one of his dad's cars. At the sentencing, John Cuss wrote in a letter to the judge, quote, Joshua has a lot of work ahead of him, and I can only hope that he learns from his mistake and turns it into a good life lesson. Well, it looks like the only thing aging worse than that statement is going to be John Cuss's car after the salt water rusts out the underside of his Subaru. Representatives from Ohio's Springfield Township Police Department say that what started out as a simple traffic stop got far stranger this week after a woman was pulled over for a violation and she ended up getting busted for something else entirely, thanks to her pet raccoon. According to a Facebook post put out by the department this week, the whole thing started around 7:15 p.m. on May 5th, when an officer conducted the stop in question just off of South Arlington Road. The officer pulled over 55-year-old Victoria Vidal after he realized she had an active warrant out and was driving with a suspended license. The whole thing was pretty standard until after placing Vidal under arrest and putting her in the back of his cruiser, the officer returned to her vehicle. And let's just say, what was waiting for him in the front seat was surprising.
Oh. Hey.
What?
I come here.
Hello?
The raccoon has her pipe.
Has what? Oh my god.
Her meth pipe.
Yes, that's right, a raccoon with a meth pipe. Not just any raccoon, though. Vidal's pet raccoon, whose name is Chewy. In what is perhaps the strangest genesis of probable cause I've ever heard of, the discovery of the meth-smoking trash panda led to a further search of Vidal's vehicle. That's where officers allegedly discovered what they described as a bulk amount of methamphetamine, an undisclosed amount of crack cocaine, and 2 more pipes. As crazy as all of this is, I'd argue that's not even the most bizarre twist in the case. You see, despite Vidal's alleged illegal activities, the one area where she was apparently following the law was in terms of her pet ownership. According to police, she had the proper paperwork for Chewy, and it's legal to own raccoons in the state of Ohio. Now, whether or not she'll get Chewy back, though, is another question. I mean, he looked quite comfortable handling that meth pipe, so I think it's safe to say authorities had some concerns for his well-being. At the time of this recording, Vidal remains in custody on multiple drug charges as well as driving under suspension. She's expected to face more charges in the coming days. It's unclear where Chewy the raccoon currently is, though reports say he was unharmed at the time of the arrest. A Washington grandfather's quick and courageous actions may have saved his family's lives last week after an unhinged food delivery app worker showed up at his daughter's house drunk and armed, demanding a tip. The whole thing unfolded on the morning of May 29th, when the grandfather in question, Anthony Valino, was in the middle of breakfast with his grandchildren at his daughter's place in the city of Vancouver. Suddenly, the family meal was interrupted by loud banging at the front door. When Anthony's daughter opened up, she was confronted by a man, later identified as 59-year-old Robert Delahant. Immediately, the woman could smell alcohol on Delahant's breath as he started to go into a drunken rant. Delahant explained that he had made a DoorDash delivery to the woman's address the night before when she ordered about $100 worth of groceries. He said he had come back that morning because he felt he was owed a tip. Initially, Anthony said that he considered giving Delahant a couple bucks, but as his behavior got more and more aggressive, he changed his mind. That's when he got up and took over the interaction. telling Delahant he needed to leave. However, things quickly escalated when Anthony noticed that the 59-year-old had a handgun strapped to his waist. That's when he realized he was in a fight for his life. In wild home surveillance footage that partially captured what happened next, you can see Anthony struggling with Delahant and moving him away from the front door. He's able to get the gun away from the unhinged DoorDash driver, pushing him up against a vehicle in the driveway as he works to clear the weapon of ammunition. Both men ended up calling 911, though for obvious reasons, Delahant was the only one who was arrested in the end. He is now facing charges including felony harassment, driving under the influence, and assault. Perhaps the most ridiculous part of the whole thing, though, is that Delahant did get a tip. Anthony's daughter had immediately tipped the 59-year-old through the DoorDash app at the time of the initial delivery. So apparently the money Delahant was demanding was an additional tip that he wanted in cash. In an interview with local media after the ordeal, Anthony talked about how shocked he was by the bizarre and dangerous situation. He told reporters in part, quote, "I could have been shot. My kids could have been shot. If he would have gotten his hands on that gun, somebody could have gotten hurt. I still can't believe it happened. He can't make that decision that I am going to somebody's house to get a cash tip." For their part, DoorDash released a statement following the incident, stressing that they have a zero-tolerance policy for harassment. They say Delahant was immediately removed from the app when the situation was brought to their attention.
Authorities in Jacksonville, Florida say that they are investigating an equally strange and upsetting case this week after a man robbed a local pet store by shoving one of their animals down his pants. The brazen crime took place in broad daylight on May 27th at the Petland location on Beach Boulevard. It began when the unknown male suspect walked into the store pretending to be a customer. After heading straight for the ferret section, the man picked up a $650 female named Stella. Bizarre surveillance footage recorded inside the store shows the suspect crouching down while playing with Stella before shoving her down his shorts. Moments later, the man began heading for the door. As you can see, he is clearly holding the crotch of his shorts to prevent the ferret from falling out. Because none of this was exactly stealthy, the man was immediately spotted by the store's manager, who attempted to run after him. However, he was able to make it back to his vehicle and drive off before the manager could catch a glimpse of his license plate. According to reports, the man was driving some sort of white work van with multiple ladders on top. While the whole situation is mildly amusing, if only because of how ridiculous it is, staff at the pet store say they aren't laughing. One employee told local media, quote, "Everyone here is an animal lover, and we want to make sure that they go to good homes. How can we guarantee that when he's putting it down his pants?" It was really upsetting. They went on to say that the crime had affected the other ferret who was still his cage mate at the pet store, stating, quote, "They're bonding animals, so they need someone else in there. This one was actually in with the ferret that had gotten taken, so we had to put another ferret in with her, and they had to get some adjusting together." It was definitely a direct effect. At the time of this recording, the ferret thief has yet to be caught, though police are hoping that by circulating images and surveillance footage of the crime, he can be identified. Anyone with information about the strange case is asked to reach out to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Viewers across Southern California were left stunned on Sunday night after a pair of suspects led police on one of the wildest pursuits in recent memory, carjacking multiple vehicles, including a tanker truck, all while the entire thing was broadcast on live TV. According to the LA County Sheriff's Department, the bizarre ordeal began around 10:40 p.m. on August 10th in the San Fernando Valley. Deputies first spotted a dark-colored pickup truck that had been reported stolen at gunpoint. When they attempted to intervene, the suspects began driving dangerously, pinning in other vehicles and even trying, unsuccessfully, to hijack two of them. A short time later, though, the chaos escalated dramatically. The suspects cornered a tanker truck on Interstate 5 near Sylmar. After the driver bolted from the cab in panic, the suspects took off with the massive big rig and headed southbound toward downtown Los Angeles. For a time, the giant truck weaved through high-rise areas of the city, circling streets packed with pedestrians. Several commercial drivers watching the chase on TV called into news stations to help police, saying the vehicle likely was not hauling anything dangerous and looked like a milk truck. Thankfully, authorities confirmed the tanker was empty at the time. By about 11:30 p.m., the suspects ditched the truck and immediately carjacked a white pickup truck before taking off once again, this time towards Boyle Heights. From there, the pursuit became even more reckless, with the suspects at one point driving the wrong way down Interstate 10. During the chase, one of them fired shots at California Highway Patrol officers, making the situation all the more dangerous. The pair briefly stopped on surface streets in Boyle Heights to swap drivers before continuing on. They then carjacked yet another vehicle, this time a black sedan near Lincoln Heights, where officers ultimately lost track of them around 11:50 p.m. The sedan rolled to a stop under a 101 freeway overpass after the suspects bailed out on foot. Police later said they recovered a loaded firearm from the back of the Ford F-250, the first vehicle the duo had stolen earlier in the night. As of this recording, the two suspects remain unidentified and at large. The LAPD is warned that they should be considered armed and dangerous. Anyone with information is asked to contact the LAPD immediately.
Authorities in Polk County, Florida say that a lakeside gathering turned into absolute chaos over the weekend after a massive brawl erupted between a group of young boaters in front of stunned families and children. The incident happened on August 9th at Lake Winterset, a popular spot just a couple of miles from Legoland, Florida. According to the Polk County Sheriff's Office, the fight broke out at the lake's sandbar, an area that has already been a frequent source of complaints from nearby residents. The whole thing started when one man was punched twice and knocked out cold. Disturbing video released by the sheriff's office shows him flopping face down to the ground, completely unresponsive, as punches suddenly start flying all around him. At one point, a woman in a pink bikini can be seen desperately trying to perform CPR on the unconscious man. Meanwhile, the chaos spread into the water. A man in a large gold chain tried to hold another person back, only for both of them to trip into the lake. Then, out of nowhere, the man who threw the first punch dove into the fray and started attacking someone else. Before long, yet another man was left floating face down in the water. When it was all over, 8 people, identified as Mason Land, Nate Land, Peyton Eli, Timothy Gooding, Richard Carden, Garrett Orr, Garrett Hiltebidel, and a 17-year-old who has not been named publicly, were arrested. Sheriff Grady Judd says they're each facing charges including rioting, affray, trespassing, and disorderly conduct. The sheriff slammed the behavior as both dangerous and disgusting. In a press conference this week, he warned that the days of tolerance for rowdy gatherings on Lake Winterset are over. In his words, quote, "The conduct is reprehensible, and obviously you don't believe us when we try to warn you. So you have unleashed the teeth of the dog, and now we're going to start biting you, just like we bit these guys here." Officials say that the Winterset Sandbar has been a recurring setting for issues going back years, with complaints ranging from public indecency to loud parties. In May, the Polk County Commission even passed an ordinance aimed at keeping boaters away from private shorelines. That new law was still awaiting final approval when the weekend fight broke out. In the meantime, Sheriff Judd says his office is stepping up enforcement, including arrests for trespassing if anyone sets so much as a toe onto private property. He also hinted at the possibility of stricter noise ordinances in the near future. For now, the 8 men arrested remain charged in connection with what the sheriff's office is calling one of the most brazen and dangerous disturbances they've seen on the lake in years. Hey there. Before you take off, we'd just like to take a second and say that we really appreciate you sticking around to the end of the video. Luke and I are so grateful for our incredible Crime Zone community, so thank you for being a part of it. If you want to help Crime Zone continue to grow, one of the easiest things you can do is leave a like on this video and consider subscribing. Be sure to hit that notification bell as well and select all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to support the channel, there are a couple of options. We've got a thriving community over on Patreon, where you can get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. Head over to patreon.com/crimezone to learn more and to meet some of the awesome people whose names are currently on screen. If that isn't your thing, we've also now launched channel memberships so you can join directly here on YouTube. Channel members get a lot of the same perks as on Patreon, including extra content, without the added hassle of having to go off-platform. Now, that being said, we know times are tough and that not everyone is able to support financially. Regardless of your situation though, we want you to know that we truly appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much, and we hope to see you soon.